Las Vegas, and that only one team can get that invite, so.
Who's going to have to go play Open Cups and who is not going to have to go play Open Cups? Let's check out the varsity format and see the road that these teams have traveled to get to this point in the tournament. We played through the regular season, 4 round-robin groups with all of the teams put into them, and then the top 4 teams from each region moved on to the varsity playoffs, where we had top 4 teams from each region competing in dual elimination groups. Top 2 teams from each region then advanced to the varsity finals, which is what we have been broadcasting this week. The teams have competed in a single elimination bracket. The top 4, which you'll be seeing today, have already qualified for the championship bracket, but we are going to play it out to find our finals winner, who will be invited to the Hearthstone Masters Tour in Las Vegas. Very exciting stuff. We're going to find out which team that is by the end of the day today.
That indeed. Maybe we'll actually end up seeing them there. Maybe you'll see some of these players competing there in Las Vegas. But we also have the open format. No need to forget that. From the open division, we saw 4 regional Swiss groups from the north, south, east, and west, all with 5-2 records or better in your region. You would then qualify for the regional Swiss, in which you would then play additional rounds until the top 8 teams from each region then go to the regional playoffs, and the top 3 teams will advance to the championship bracket to meet up with our varsity teams, forming your championship bracket.
But of course, we have to know how we're going to be playing Hearthstone, and that is through the Conquest format. Each team have submitted deck lists for 4 unique classes. They will then go ahead and ban one of their opponent's classes from the lineups. That means they cannot play that class. Teams will then play a best of 5 series, and after they've won with a class, that class is then eliminated from contention. So they need to win with all 3 of their decks, and once they've done so, they will win the series.
Sounds pretty basic to me, Cora. Never heard of Conquest before. I'm a specialist gamer now, so thanks for explaining it to me.
Oh, anytime, Jason, anytime.
All right, but let's go ahead and check and see where we're at from these brackets for your varsity regional finals. There's a recap of yesterday, seeing all those teams, the winners and the losers. But now, on the day for semifinal number 1, we've got Oregon versus Jamestown. And for semifinal number 2, Northeastern versus Miami. Just 2 more games away from any of these teams being your finalists and champions.
Very excited for that second series of the day. But of course, Oregon and Jamestown are formidable foes as well. We've got to see what they're playing for. It is all of this scholarship prize money. First place will get $9,000 in scholarships per player. Second place, $5,000. Third and fourth place, $2,500. Fifth through 8th place, $1,300. Ninth through 16th will be going home with $650. And 17th through 36th place will each be going home with $200 Aces tablets. And remember, this is just the varsity bracket portion of the tournament. The varsity players who have qualified for the semifinals in the varsity bracket are moving to the championship bracket to play with the open division players. So this prize money is the overarching prize money, but this is just one small part of the actual tournament format. And again, none of this would be possible if it weren't for our generous sponsors. So thank you very much to Aces Republic of Gamers for making this season of the Hearthstone Collegiate Championships a reality. It's been a really great one so far, and I'm excited to see which of these teams we're going to be sending to the Hearthstone Masters Tour Las Vegas event later on this summer, and which ones we might even be seeing competing there. It's really, really awesome stuff, and I think we do have some really good contenders in here, some people who could be very competitive in a bigger scope of Hearthstone. We want to know who you're rooting for. Tweet at Team Tespa, go on Facebook/Team Tespa, and ask us questions. We want to answer them and give away $1 on Flame card backs, so tweet those questions to at Team Tespa, and we'll be answering some of them at the end of the day today. Now, I know you're trying to qualify for the Masters Tour as well. It's just a matter of time. But that would mean, selfishly, you would be playing against some of these players. So
some of these players are still scary, though. I mean,
who
making
you
it this.
For? You want the guys who. I mean, you want good competition.
Oh, of course I want good competition. Honestly, I probably have to say that I'm rooting for Northeastern, just because we've seen them so much on stream, and they have been not only impressing me, but they also, I feel like they've been getting better gradually with each game. At the start of the season, maybe it was a little bit rougher. They're still getting the wins under their belt. And then eventually, just, game after game, it seems that they have gotten just much better as a team overall. So I would like to see Northeastern take it, but it's hard to be partial. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that in our second series of the day. But before we start with our first semifinal, it's time for our play analysis segment, sponsored by Aces Republic of Gamers. And Dr. J, this is a short one, so take it away.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation. As you can see, Texas opts to go for dagger up and then swing face. So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to set up lethal with the Malagos combo. The big issue I have with the play that turn is they had 2 vanishes in their hand, and I would have much rather seen them vanish the high main. Now, typically when you think of vanish, you think, oh, well, I want to use it on multiple minions. But the thing is, in that matchup, once you get your burst damage, it doesn't matter how many minions they have on their board. You are going to win the game. So your whole point of that game is just to survive as long as possible. If you vanish the high main and they replay it, that's a free turn of drawing a card. You also had another copy of Vanish, so I think I would have liked to seen Texas take that a different route.
And they were a couple cards away from being able to win the game. A couple swings of a Necrium Blade or a Necrium Vial plus another preparation. They realistically could have won the game had they just played out those 2 Vanishes just to stall for some time. So maybe something that they're going to have to go back and look at. But we can now look forward to our first semifinal match of the day. It's going to be Oregon taking on Jamestown. We've got Paladin, Hunter, Warlock, Rogue band away for Oregon. And for Jamestown, it's Hunter, Paladin, Priest with the Warlock band away. Now, we saw these same exact decks yesterday. Teams did not get to resubmit, but remind us what we've got going on here.
Yeah, so for Oregon, you have a very aggressive lineup. They have even Paladin. They have this Pirate Rogue that's been banned away. They've got Mid-Range Hunter, and they also have a Zoo Warlock that tops off at Mojo Master Zihi. For Jamestown, they've got their own Mid-Range Hunter. They've got an Odd Paladin, and then they've got a Wall Priest. So it looks like Jamestown may have slight edge here. The Even Warlock did get banned away, which is probably the heaviest control deck, but even Paladin being, Odd Paladin and then Wall Priest, they're very strong, like kind of aggressive, anti-aggressive decks. It's a really weird phrase to put into terms, but it makes a lot of sense when you are doing a very aggressive strategy, but you can also combat the other aggressive strategies.
Yeah, Odd Paladin is the aggro deck that can beat up other aggro decks because it is the best board-centric aggro deck that we've got in the meta right now. So we'll have to see maybe if they can use that advantage to pick up a win here, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at the roster for Oregon. It is Serpen, Nyquist, and Noah JV with Psychology, Sports Business, and Noah's not quite decided yet, but that's okay. He's got time.
I feel like I've been in college for like 3-4 years and I'm still undecided. So I don't blame people. Sometimes you just don't know. You just think you know what you want to do, and then you don't actually know.
I'm firmly of the camp that, when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're deciding where you want to go to college and what you want to do with the rest of your life. It's too young. I don't think anybody knows what they really want to be doing for the next 60 years when they're 17 years old.
I agree with that, but
that's a conversation for another time.
Yep, but Jamestown knows what they want to do. They've got Arc, Sauce, and Clicky Boy with secondary education, computer science, and psychology. I really like the name Clicky Boy.
Clicky Boy.
I don't know what it is, especially because he spelled it B-O-I. I think that's the appropriate term to spell boy.
If you were watching yesterday, University of Jamestown are the team with a 6'8" tall Canadian hockey player, and Clicky Boy is roughly half the size of Sauce, he says. So we got them to play around Meteor yesterday. That was very fun, and they were very good sports about it. So thank you, Jamestown, for humoring us.
That was really great. If you don't, I would highly recommend going back to watch that, because seeing
that was funny.
The difference in height between the players is absolutely insane. One of them is just towering. One of them is very, very short, and then the other one is just like. Yeah. It's hard for me to tell though, because I could be shorter than all of them. I just don't know.
Well,
I'm definitely shorter than the 6'8" person.
It was definitely better than because that started with the DreamHack Meteor positioning meme, right? It was 3 casters at a desk, and they were like, "Oh, the casters are playing around Meteor," because for some reason they always had the shortest person in the middle at DreamHack, and I was always on the end because I was the host. But everybody always thinks I'm so tall, but I'm not. All the casters are just around the same height.
No, it's actually kind of funny because I'm probably about like. How much taller am I than you? Like 5?
Like 5'8" maybe. I'm like 5'5".
Yeah, I'm like 3 to 4 inches taller than Cora, but if you're looking at us right now, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Oh, well, I have a very long torso. I have some short legs. Oh.
I also think my seat's probably a little bit lower than hers, just
if
so
I
we
sit
look
up
the same
straight,
height.
like I'm just as tall as, yeah. That has absolutely nothing to do with what we're doing here today. But now you know. The more you know.
More you know.
Also, Arc went on a 21-game win streak in Wild, playing a big Druid Dragon deck, so that's pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
From the University of Oregon, we've got a competitive snowboarder, an ultimate Frisbee player, and a guy who spent an entire year of high school in the Czech Republic.
Wow, how did the high school just let him do that?
Maybe it's part of like an exchange program.
Probably.
I'm not sure.
How many high schools out there do you think have like crazy exchange programs like that?
None where I lived.
Yeah, none where I lived either.
None that I knew of. I mean, I did a 2-week exchange in college, and I know some people who did full-term exchanges in college, but I feel like that's a lot more common.
I think in colleges it's a whole lot more common, yeah.
But regardless, We're going to be getting into game number 1 here, and it's going to be the Zoo Warlock for Oregon and Jamestown on the Wall Priest that they've brought to the table. Wall Priest can be very anti-aggro. A lot of Resurrect on a lot of big taunt minions, but they do take some time to sort of get going with that engine, and maybe the Zoo Warlock can take advantage of that.
Yeah, the Zoo Warlock needs to get off to a really fast-paced start, and the Priest really needs to kind of whiff for Zoo to have, like, a reasonable chance. A lot of times what happens, especially with the inclusion of Northshire Cleric, it makes a lot of sense that the Priest can get there a lot of the times, because the Northshire Cleric will contest the early game, then you put something like a Tar Creeper down, and then once a Witchwood Grizzly hits and it gets resurrected, it's essentially game over at that point. Now, they do have a copy of Spellbreaker to try and fight through, and the Mojo Master Zihi will come into play later on, but the issue is right now, they played a 1-mana 2/1, and their next turn is either Solarium, hope to get a 1-drop, or just pass. I mean, I almost wouldn't have been opposed to seeing Soulfire on the 1/3, but it's a really hard choice to make, especially that early on.
That's a tough call. You don't want to have to get rid of your Soulfire that early, especially when burn damage is so pivotal in this matchup in particular, because this Priest is playing copies of Divine Hymn. So Soulfire can be super valuable to end the game later on alongside a Leroy Jenkins, but also if you fall behind early to a Northshire Cleric, you may not get to that later stage of the game.
Yeah, the biggest issue right now is they just don't have pressure. They have a Tar Creeper. And although Tar Creeper, we're all going to miss him tomorrow. Oh, reminder to everybody at home tomorrow. As soon as you log in, I believe...
10 a.m. Pacific.
10 a.m. Pacific.
It is a global release for the
1
first
p.m.
time ever.
EST for my East Coasters out there. As soon as you log on, you will no longer face the tyranny of Tar Creeper. So play all of your aggressive decks.
How
Go
dare
face
you?
as much as you want, because Tar Creeper will not stop you. Now, there will probably be
Have
other
you
minions
no
that stop
shame?
you, but... I mean, don't get me wrong, Tar Creeper was...
Tar
he's the
Creeper
GOAT.
is a valued member of society. Tar
He
Creeper
is the GOAT.
has done nothing but his best.
If Tar Creeper was an Overwatch character, he'd be part of GOATs.
Which GOAT would he be?
He'd be his own. Like
He's
he would be,
Reinhardt.
I'm
Who
saying
are we
if he was like a character
Who
in
are we
Overwatch.
kidding? He's the Shield. He's the Reinhardt.
That's insane. That card is just gone tomorrow.
But it's not. Tar Creeper is one of the best fair cards that we've ever had in the game. He doesn't make you mad when you see him. You're like, shoot, that's annoying. But it's okay. I guess I'll just play some more minions and I'll get him eventually. It's just good.
Yeah, Tar Creeper is absolutely insane. It's actually kind of bittersweet to see how many of these cards are rotating. Like Despicable Dreadlord, I'm pretty sure you won't be able to play him anymore.
Nope. He's gone. We are losing probably about 80% of the cards that are in meta decks right now, I would say. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. I firmly believe that we are going to be ushered into a new era of Hearthstone with the rotation that's happening tomorrow.
Is Life
I'm
Drinker
very
leaving
excited
us?
for it.
Cora, get on it. Is Life Drinker leaving us? I can't remember what set Life Drinker. That's the hardest part about having so many sets, is I look at a card and I just don't remember what set it
No,
came
it's
from.
Witchwood. We're good. We get to keep him.
Whew.
He's a good boy.
Life Drinker is a good card. Holy moly. Especially when you lose so many cards, it might just be better.
So basically, Oregon are just trying to put on as much pressure as they possibly can, but it's not going particularly well for them so far.
No.
They didn't have Happy Goal to follow up the Life Drinker. They didn't have 2 1-drop minions to play on turn 2. They had to Life Tap instead. And things could potentially be looking a little different if they had maybe a couple of Flame Imps early on. But even still, Mass Hysteria and Ziliax on the side of Jamestown alongside Grizzly and an Eternal Servitude. This is going to be very difficult for Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's just trying to put on maximum pressure, and Dr. J is just trying to talk about new cards.
There is 1 copy of Spellbreaker in the deck for Oregon. So that's going to need to be a very well-timed silence for them to deal 26 more damage. It's going to be tough.
Serenite Chain Gang is leaving us, too.
Yep.
Honestly, I'm just going to talk about all the cards that are leaving us.
I mean, sure.
Eternal Servitude's going to be leaving us, I
Do
think.
you?
How could these cards do that? How could they just leave us like that?
I will confirm. Yep, Servitude is Knights.
Shadow Visions will be leaving us.
Well, Oregon have gone just about as wide as they possibly can, and they're just hoping that Jamestown doesn't have the punish.
Lich King will be leaving us.
I miss Lich King. Lich King was the pseudo Ragnaros for the last 2 years.
Hey, but we're keeping my boy Ziliax.
Yeah, he good.
That card is so good.
If you don't have Ziliax crafted,
who was it that had that meme? It was like a meme, and it was when you're building your new Rise of Shadows decks. If you don't have Ziliax, check yes or no, and like you go to the flow chart, and it's like yes, your deck is good. No, why don't you have Ziliax? Because I don't have room, or because I
don't have it.
Because I don't have it. Go craft it, and then put it in your deck. Or if you don't have room, find room. That card is absolutely absurd. Yeah, this is just gonna be really rough because even the Mojo Master Zihi for Oregon here, although it typically would be pretty strong to try and stop something like Psychic Scream, it's not going to help out too much, especially when they have to fight through so many Witchwood Grizzlies. And with the Shadow Visions, they could just find another Eternal Servitude to bring it back.
I do like the Jamestown held back last turn and didn't necessarily just go for the Mass Hysteria right out the gate. By using their minions as removal, they save their hard removal for a point in the game where they may not have the minions to do the job. And also, they want their minions to die. They want to be able to resurrect all of these big taunts because eventually it's just going to be too much for Oregon to deal with, and then Jamestown's just going to be able to hit Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, and kill him in one hit.
This is a scary part where just resurrecting one Grizzly is like enough. Divine Hymn's a pretty strong pickup. They might go for Spellstone just to try and resurrect potentially more Grizzlies in the future. It'd actually be cool to see if they had, if they opted to put Archmage Vargoth in.
Into Wall Priest?
Yeah. They didn't, which makes a lot of sense. You would rather try and guarantee that the minions you pull are like impactful taunts, especially with Master Oakheart. You'd rather pull a Mushog Enforcer than the Archmage. But I think Archmage honestly just might be strong enough in this deck to warrant playing it anyways.
I think you need to make a really good case on why not to play Archmage Vargoth. Obviously, he fits incredibly well in Clone Priest, but even if you just Servitude Vargoth and he hits another Servitude for you, it's not like you're expending additional resources. You're just getting 2 minions. And most of the time, yeah, sometimes maybe it'll bring back a Northshire Cleric, but if you get a Witchwood Grizzly or you get a Moshog Enforcer, that's phenomenal
Even
value.
if you get like another Archmage Vargoth in a lot of matchups, just having 2 2/6s that require them to be answered is insane. Card is just crazy good. We're not losing him. We just got him.
No, but I do think we're going to be losing a lot of the power of him.
Probably.
This week-long Vargoth Big Priest meta that we've had has made a lot of people kind of upset. A lot of people don't like it, but it is more powerful than he will ever be in Standard ever again. So this is almost guaranteed to be a great Mass Hysteria.
That was,
yeah.
I think
That
it could
was
have gone
even better than a great
yeah, I
Mass
think that was
Hysteria.
better than great. It could have been a little bit worse for Jamestown, I'd say. Like, there was potential for maybe one of their minions to live, but having their Grizzly live is absolutely insane.
Mojo Master might slow things down a little bit
It's not
for
gonna slow it down
Jamestown,
enough.
but they can just... How much damage do they have? 18? With Shield, Hero Power, Divine Spirit, Topsy-Turvy?
Yes.
1 damage off lethal.
They could also just find another Divine Spirit here. If they go Visions into Divine Spirit, that would have been lethal as well. So I like their ordering going for Visions because they wouldn't be able to fit into Hero Power, but
They would have
they
just
would have
had
had
20.
lethal, exactly. They can take the Power Word Shield. It does the same thing as a Hero Power if they wanted to go for that. Looks like they're going to go for kind of a safer approach. I'm sure they can draw with a Cleric as well. I like the way they're playing this. I think I'd go for Power Word Shield first.
Is someone injured?
This tells me they didn't want to risk overdrawing. Honestly, at this point, I don't even think they're that worried about overdrawing. I might have just taken the overdraw.
They have an upgraded Spellstone. They have life gain. They have a ton of damage they can push.
The first Spellstone is going to upgrade the second one.
Not much more that Jamestown could really need here. It's just a matter of a very brief amount of time, I say.
And Spellstone is guaranteed to bring back the 3 same minions. It's going to bring back a Witchwood Grizzly, a Tar Creeper, and a Northshire Cleric. Just bringing back 1 Witchwood Grizzly is enough.
Oh, yeah. Oregon still do have a copy of Spellbreaker in the deck, but if they never find it, then it's never relevant. And even if they do find it, they're still running the risk of leaving a Witchwood Grizzly on the board that can be buffed and then just killed them. Gotta give it to Oregon for staying in this one, but this was a very uphill battle from the start.
I guess the brightest thing for them is that they still have a pretty reasonable state of, like, I'm trying to figure out what to say here.
Use your words, Jace.
I'm trying to figure out how to use my words. Their deck is Prince Caliseth's off. That's what I was trying to say.
Their deck is better than it usually is, but still not good enough.
It's just how many Spellstones they have, and that each Spellstone is just going to upgrade the next. They don't even need to play that. Once they get to turn 9, it's like Master Oakheart becomes a Spellstone. It's like the Master Oakheart will pull Moshog and the other Witchwood Grizzly. Alright, that's some taunts to put in the way.
And Oregon can clear the Grizzly. With what's on board, they get to keep around the Mojo Master and a 4/1 Fungal Enchanter.
This still hurts me to see whenever I see a 3/4 chain gang summon a 2/3. Just doesn't feel right.
It is kind of taking a while for the most recent balance changes to actually sink in. 4 mana quality still looks really bad. Eventually we'll get there.
I just think it's the funniest thing when you look at a card and you're like, okay, I've never seen it differently, right? Like when you're a newer player and you look at Soulfire being 1 mana. That card used to be 0 mana.
The card should never have been 0 mana. Oh, not even a little bit.
I still think the only card that I look at and I always thought it was 4 mana was Hex. But at one point Hex was 3 mana, and I just don't. That was recently too.
It wasn't too long ago. This is kind of a tough call actually for Jamestown because they kind of want to just Psychic Scream this, but then the issue is Oregon could top deck Mojo Master Zehi and just play it again. That would be pretty disruptive for Jamestown.
So unlikely though.
But I don't think there's anything super safe that Jamestown could have done other than the Psychic Scream.
Even if they play Zehi, they're not even that worried. Like they could life tap, play Mojo Master Zehi, and then they just put a Zilliax in the way.
Well, there's 10 burst for Oregon.
All right, Leroy, hit him in the face, go.
Just pray that Jamestown don't have any way to generate taunts or any way to deal 1 damage.
Maybe Soulfire, one of the 1/1s. Play around an upgraded Spellstone. Maybe they get a 1/1, a 1/3, and a Tar Creeper.
Yeah, it's possible.
That just seems really bad. I think it would just go Leroy Lightward and hit him in the face. I think it's like your only course of action. Curious if one of the little whelps could kill them. If they Power Word Shield a whelp. Hit 2 Divine Spirits? No, it's not going to. Actually, that would be enough. If they hit Divine Spirit from a Power Word Shield. But Master Oakheart's too good here.
You do not lose if you play Master Oakheart. Witchwood Grizzly, Moshog, Oregon are not getting through these minions. And then Jamestown will be able to even just topsy-turvy the Moshog next turn for the win. or the Grizzly, whichever one they don't kill.
Or just go face now and not even need the Topsy-Turvy. Fine with that, too. Either way, what we're trying to say here is this is not Oregon's game.
No, it never has been. But you know what? They fought through it. It is tough going into those really polarized matchups and knowing from the get-go that you are very unlikely to be able to win. But you owe it to yourself to play out those tough scenarios. And here, even if Jamestown didn't have any buffing, they were just going to have lethal on board. So that's going to be game number 1 right over to Jamestown. Taking down the Zoo Warlock with their Wall Priest, but getting the Wall Priest through was going to happen. It's pretty powerful versus board-centric aggro decks, and that's entirely what University of Oregon have brought in their lineup, so it was bound to happen.
Yeah, Wall Priest, unless it went up against the Rogue, which they banned away the Rogue because their lineup was the weakest to Rogue, Wall Priest was going to get a win somewhere. I was not doubting that at all. I think its worst matchup was probably the mid-range Hunter, especially because it does have a copy of Hunter's Mark inside of it. But not one copy of Hunter's Mark isn't going to necessarily win them that series. So it makes a lot of sense that Wall Priest got the win early, and it makes a lot of sense that they queued it up first.
Yeah, I think it's a safe first bet against anything that you're going to go up against. It has a fair chance of winning. And we're playing Conquest, not Last Hero Standing, so you're going to have to win with the deck at some point. Might as well just lead that, get a feel for what your opponent decided to lead, and then maybe try and get a read on what they're going to bring second. But are you the kind of person when you're playing Conquest format that likes to try and get a read on what your opponent is going to bring and then attempt to counter that with your
You're talking about in the queue order?
Yes, your pick order. Does pick order matter?
It's a tough question.
A lot of people say, just roll the die.
A lot of people say just kind of go with it, but I'm a secret believer that I think it does matter to an extent.
Okay.
But I don't know how much it matters. It might be like obviously what you queue up into what matters, right? Like for instance, if you queued that Priest into Rogue, that would matter. The issue is, well, how do you know your opponents are going to pick Rogue first? Are you trying to mind games them? Do you have a read on them? Was your read wrong? That's where I think it matters, is those little spots. But I don't necessarily think it may matter what you queue up first, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think that's fair.
I think it's like half and half. It matters the matchups you hit, but I'm not sure if it matters what you queue.
Yeah.
It's a weird way to explain it.
All right, the Priest gets a win. The Warlock was banned, so that leaves just the Odd Paladin and the mid-range Hunter for University of Jamestown. Nothing too crazy about either of these lists, except the mid-range Hunter does have a copy of the Beast at the very top end, which is quite unusual, and a copy of King Mukla in the middle there. So we did not get to see that yesterday.
Yeah, it got banned away yesterday. The Beast is a weird take because they've cut Savannah Highmane, which I would say in the mirror matches or most matchups, Savannah Highmane is absolutely insane. But the one thing the Beast does allow is maybe if they have Tundra Rhino, they hold coin, they could go for an 11 burst damage combo with 11 mana. Sure. That's pretty insane, but yeah, this Beast is not a typical inclusion you see in these Hunter lists.
Hey, I'm not mad about it. I mean, they might be if it does really badly. But I'm excited to see something a little bit different with mid-range Hunter because it is mostly solved by now, I would think. Sometimes you have difference of opinions on should we have one Dire Frenzy, should we have one Hunter's Mark or two Hunter's Marks. Personal preference, I suppose. But this is a little bit unusual. And then with the Odd Paladin, one copy of Witch's Cauldron, two Vine Cleavers, a Stormwind Champion. Nothing too crazy there. This is the Odd Paladin that we saw yesterday take a Warrior to Fatigue and very nearly beat a Control Warrior as an Odd Paladin. And I do think that actually Jamestown could have won that game, but they kind of stumbled right at the finish line. They had an Ancestral Healing that they got off of Witch's Cauldron that they could have used to full heal a Baku from 1 health back up to 8 health, and they chose not to. So this deck is good, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Good deck.
In that situation, it wasn't like that they chose not to. It was just that a line of play where they could have done that, they used the Ancestral Healing in a different way.
Yeah.
It's not like they left the Baku at 7-1. We're like, oh, what does Ancestral Healing do again? It was just more so they could have taken a different line of play.
Yeah, but regardless, I think Odd Paladin is a good bring. I prefer it over Even Paladin right now.
I do as well.
But personal preference, it depends on what you're attempting to target. If you think there's a lot of Druid in the meta right now, then probably Even Paladin is a better bet than Odd Paladin.
All right, Cora, I'm seeing a 1-drop, and I'm seeing a Razor Maw. And I'm not Put that tracking back. That's not the 1-drop I'm seeing.
Okay.
I like it.
So most important thing that you're looking for in mid-range Hunter, it's going to be that curve. Obviously, if you can have Dire Maul, Crackling Razor Maw into like Animal Companion or Master's Call, you're feeling really good about it.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the Spring Paw. I'm fine with the Timberwolf. As long as my Razor Maw is sticking onto a minion, that's what I want to see.
Is there anything special that you're looking for against Even Paladin, though?
Against Even Paladin, not in particular, just kind of a good curve. No, they didn't.
Pitched the Timberwolf.
We have turned our curse into our strength.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
I mean, I understand why they did it. Timberwolf, their thinking, is better used alongside Unleash the Hounds or Tundra Rhino very later on in the game. But if you don't have that 1-drop, your Crackling Razor Maw is just a 3-2. They got bailed out by the fact that they picked up that Dire Maul off the top, and they're looking like geniuses right now. But the point still stands. If you're on the coin instead of on the play, I think ditching Timberwolf is correct. If you're on the play, keep that 1-drop.
Yeah, I think the whole context of what I was trying to say there was the fact that they were on the play. So typically, if you were on the coin, like you were mentioning, Cora, what'll happen is they'll go hero power, and then you can't really play your Timberwolf into that. So because they were on the play, they could play their Timberwolf into that. They could Crackling Razor Maul the Timberwolf, hopefully hit something like +3 health where they did, and then take a value trade into the 1 while having the 3-2 alive as well. So this way worked out much better for them, but just imagine a world where they didn't have this Dire Maul. They wouldn't have played Razor Maul, they would have trackinged, and then they would have been behind on board. So that's why I really liked keeping the 1-drop on play there. I think it's just more important to have something on the board.
Master's Call is just going to do so much work to smooth out the rest of the curve for Jamestown. You take this trade with the Razor Maw, right?
Yeah, you have to play around Kings. You don't want to give it too much value, because if they go Blessings of Kings, they can then value trade into your 1-5. It's a little weak to, like, Hyena Spring Paw with trades, but I think it's more important to kind of get that off the board now. You don't want to give them too much value.
Oregon do pretty much have the dream curve here. Coin Corpse Taker into Blessing of Kings with a True Silver. Jamestown have ways to combat that, though. If the Corpse Taker is coined out this turn, they can bump in with the Dire Maul or with a Spring Paw and then kill command.
Yeah, the biggest issue right now is they do have this dream curve, but Hunter is not going to allow them to utilize this curve. If I were Oregon here, I would strongly consider going potentially Hero Power Argent Protector. I think this is just kind of a trap, because if they have something like Flanking Strike or even 1-drop Kill Command, you kind of fall behind too quickly. I guess in their mind, they're hoping that Flanking Strike comes out here so they could True Silver champion it. But I don't necessarily think that's like the best course of action. Maybe holding the coin for a turn where you could put a Spike Ridge Steed onto it might have been better.
Even if the Flanking Strike were played here and Oregon could kill the Wolf with the True Silver, Jamestown then still just has the opportunity to play multiple minions and get even further ahead. True Silver's phenomenal against mid-rangey stuff. It's great against like Misha or Leok, for instance, but if the Hunter's just playing a bunch of small stuff and then trying to go in with one big Scavenging Hyena turn, for instance, Paladin can't do a lot about that now. Most of them have cut equality.
So with that trade there, I think I would have rather seen the 1-1 stay alive. I think I would have rather seen the Dire Maul bump over. This means the Dire Maul doesn't die to something like a True Silver, but with Hyena in hand, I think it was more important to have multiple minions on the board.
Does play a little bit more into Consecration.
Then again, if your opponents are going Consecration on turn 4 and not playing anything, then you can just play like a King Mukla.
Options.
Even tracking, maybe potentially hit something off the tracking. Maybe even just go King Mukla Scavenging Hyena. That's not a bad turn either.
Well, by keeping the Dire Maul at 5 health, Jamestown make True Silver pretty awkward for Oregon, and they don't have other better options right now.
Yeah, I think if you're Oregon right now, you just have to play minions. We just have to hero power.
Hope that something
Play an
sticks
Argent
for
Protector.
Kings. Probably want to hold on to the Kangor until you actually need to heal. You could play it with Spike Richard on turn 8, for instance, and hope that Jamestown doesn't have Deathstalker Rexar up to find silence at that point. I'm just going to go ahead and play it early.
Yeah, they know if they play the Argent Protector, it will just die to what's in the hand and on board. So I think they were a little worried about that. Whereas with this play, the Kangor doesn't technically die.
Oh, the beast. Not a chance that's being taken.
Yeah, Dire Frenzy seems way too strong. I don't know if you technically cast it here just yet, but Dire Frenzy is an absurdly good card.
It's really tempting to hold it with the Lynx in hand, because then you put 3 1-mana 4/4s in the deck with Rush.
Oh, they're going for the Hyena now.
So the Lynx is going to trade over the Crystal Smith Kangor. We can see Oregon does have the True Silver to be able to kill the Scavenging Hyena, and then the Recruit can trade over the Timberwolf. So maybe going to get a little bit punished here for going for the early Scavenging Hyena. But if it had stuck around, you know, they had the Deathstalker Rexar to try and clear the board to keep the Hyena alive. It would have been a lot of damage over the next few turns. And you see that Avenging Wrath in hand for Oregon. They're also playing a copy of Archmage Vargoth. So if it gets to turn 10 and they have Vargoth Avenging Wrath, suddenly Avenging Wrath is dealing 16 damage.
That is a lot of damage.
We did see it once yesterday.
We did. It didn't really do its full potential, but it was absolutely insane. See, this is where I would rather see the double high main rather than like Mukla the Beast. Because here you would play a high main out and you would take like a value trade, and you just have a 6/5 high main on the board that Paladin doesn't have the greatest way of answering. Speaking of Archmage Vargoth.
Oh, hey, buddy. How you doing?
Still can't wait to see Archmage plus Steed.
I mean, if Jamestown don't play anything next turn, which I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe on 8, Oregon could go Vargoth Kings.
Who knows?
It's very unlikely. They could try to stick the Vargoth with the Argent Protector and set up for a buff turn that way. Regardless, they're happy to have it. I think it gives this deck a lot more gas.
Archmage Vargoth with King Mukla bananas.
+2/+2.
What a world we're living in right now.
So do Jamestown want to start building beasts, or do they want to maybe just go with the King Mukla they have in hand with a kill command this turn?
Probably need to answer again, Greymane. I think King Mukla's a decent enough body as well. The question is whether they want a tracking or not.
Got 14 cards in deck still. They have the Dire Frenzy as well, so they're not, I don't think, worried about decking out anytime soon.
They also have 2 copies of Dire Frenzy in their list, if I remember correctly. They do.
Yep.
So they're not too worried about that.
Probably going to see that Dire Frenzy come down on a Build-A-Beast at this point, because they didn't use it earlier. Find something cheap with Rush or Charge, and then hit it with Dire Frenzy.
The best thing to hit with Dire Frenzy, I've hit this one time, and it felt so good. And I knew there was no way my opponent could win because I was playing against an Odd Warrior, was I got Augmented Elic plus Rush Lifesteal.
Oh my goodness, plus the Scale Hide.
Yes, Augmented Elic plus Scale Hide. And I shuffled 6 Augmented Elics with Scale Hide into my deck.
Jamestown do have the option of hitting Dire Frenzy on the King Mukla.
Looks like they're going to go for it. I mean, it
the
takes a
trade
good
plea.
trade on board, yeah. I wish if they were doing
4-mana
this.
7/7s? Whew.
I guess with this, they want a tracking to play the other Mukla as well. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, they whiff. I think they're going to take Dire Frenzy just to have that extra source of shuffle into the deck. So it looks a little strange building last, but it made sense the way they played it. Oh, Augmented Alec. Please. Augmented Alec.
You just took the Dire
Rush
Frenzy.
Lifesteal. I'm a prophet. I'm a prophet.
There's a bunch of good stuff you could hit on the second pull.
Oh, so close. That's still pretty insane.
It's still very good. You're just pumping your deck full of buffed beasts. But we'll see. Maybe they didn't take the Alec first. JK, they did.
Of course you take Alec. Oh my gosh, that's
Alec
insane.
plus the Stoneskin Basilisk.
Plus, yeah, Divine Shield and Poisonous, that is a scary, scary minion. And they can curve it out on 10 if they get that to that stage where they can just play that in Dire Frenzy.
But Oregon have a lot of big stuff as well. Kings onto the Stegodon, protect it, and get that Mookla off the board. They're still very ahead on board, whereas Jamestown, over time, is going to be able to take the lead just because their beasts are going to be such high quality. They're able to buff things and shuffle them into the deck with Dire Frenzy. They're committing to a long game, but in the short term, Oregon's hand looks really nice. Like we were saying, Vargoth Avenging Wrath turn 10. 16 damage.
It may be a possibility. Whew. Probably the Gentle Megasaur. Typically, Shimmering Corsair would be really strong, but not in this particular matchup.
Or second pick. Second pick, you are always looking for Vicious Scalehide or Stone Tusk Boar is really good. Stubborn
not a bad
Gastropod's
beast.
not bad. At least this is cheap.
This tells me that they want to go for Flanking Strike turn this turn. Or else they probably would have played the Alec. That tells me that they really want to shuffle this Alec into the deck. All right, Vargoth Consecration. Go face.
It's really good.
It's absolutely insane.
That Vargoth is fully protected by the Stegodon. Unless Jamestown built a beast that has silence, this Vargoth is not going to get killed. And that's just going to lead to Avenging Wrath plus Glass Knight on 10 now.
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
Oregon might just be able to race.
Oregon, I just saw Oregon's face when they played that combo. They're just like, how is this a card? How is this a card?
Why did Blizzard do this? I mean, they wanted to throw a wrench into the meta for about 6 days, and oh boy, they did.
That was a huge wrench. That wasn't a wrench in the cogs. It was like a meteor. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
have
say goodbye
this,
to Meteor.
bam.
We're losing that too.
Oh yeah, we are losing meteor. Losing Augmented Alec? I don't think so.
Jamestown cannot get through the Stegodon. They can't touch the Vargoth, which to me means that they're either going for the Alec with the Dire Frenzy this turn and hoping that the Alec is going to be big enough that it can kill the Stegodon because it does have Divine Shield and Poisonous, or they've got to build. Look for Silence. Silence plus, like, Ironbeak Owl plus Hunting Mastiff here would be really good. You wouldn't be able to play both on this turn, but you can play them next turn.
Oh, they're going to play the King Mookla as well.
Just, I guess, think they need to be more powerful on board.
Which makes a lot of sense. But Avenging Wrath. How much damage do they push face if they just push everything face? Got 10 damage right now without playing anything else. They go to 14. Pretty sure there's no way to get guaranteed lethal this turn. But I'm not opposed to just seeing push everything face, play the Glass Knight, Avenging Wrath. I think there's no reason to dilute the pool, and this will be the best Avenging Wrath you ever get.
It's 14 points of health on the board. So if the whole board is clear, 4 points of the Avenging Wrath go face. And they play the Kings and hit the 50 that the Avenging Wrath is played again.
I don't even think you need to play the Kings. I think you just play the Glass Knight.
Most damage they could have would be 18 damage if everything went right.
Avenging Wrath, Vargoth. You could also like trade in the 1/1s into the 4/3 if they're that worried about it. I wouldn't have been too unhappy to see that either.
Behold!
God damn, that's good. Well, if they traded the 1-1s over, the Alex still would not have died. So, I guess good on Oregon for not doing that. But Jamestown are down to 7.
Now it's comeback time.
And there's kings and 3 bananas in hand.
Any Murlocs on the board? Let me check. Is it Shaman?
Toxfin? Oh, wait.
Probably take Vicious Fledgling.
They never found a secondary beast with Rusher Charge. Rexar not being too kind to Jamestown today.
If they had taken Hungry Crab, it probably would have worked out best for them. It's really hard to decide, though. If they took Vicious Fledgling, I think they should take the Snow Flipper Penguin. If they had taken Hungry Crab, they built the best beast this turn. So props to them. That was a really good spot by taking the Hungry Crab.
They're not dead.
To be honest, I think they probably turned this game around.
The window's closing, but there is still a little itty bitty bit of time. If Jamestown builds a really bad beast next turn, Oregon could still be able to win this.
I guess that's true. And technically, because there are 3 bananas, they can actually answer this taunt minion. All they need is like something cheap with taunt, though. Or just something with lifesteal. And I think they've won this game. It all comes down to this beast that they're about to build.
Don't think the Master's Call gets him there.
Yeah, they could draw like Tundra Rhino, but they won't be able to play the King Mukla alongside it. And then they would just give bananas as well. I guess they could go for Master's Call, hit Tundra Rhino plus Razor Maw. So you probably take Scavenging Hyena. Hope to get Boar. Then you can clear the board. Except for the 1-1. So hopefully they took Scavenging Hyena for their sake at least. These then go Master's Call, hit the Timberwolf, take 2 trades, and then trade the Scavenging Hyena up. They've been building beasts pretty well so far. This is fine too. This might probably be better.
Wait, what did you want to do? You wanted to Master's Call into the Timberwolf.
And trade up, but I think this is better.
Trade up into
Not the
what?
Timberwolf, the Spring Paw.
Okay. Okay, yes.
I was trying to find a way to clear all of the board. The other way, if you hit the Spring Paw, well, first of all, you have to hit the Spring Paw.
Yeah, and then you can clear the Ooze and the buffed recruit.
Reporting for duty.
But this way works better because now they can Master's Call into the Hyenas. The issue is they're just staring down a pretty immense board. And a secret. Question is, do they build first? Probably. What 3 beasts could they draw that they would want to play all in the same turn? Not enough.
Nope. Trying to build their way back into this game. That's not going to do it.
Secret is also Repentance, which means that they potentially could clear enough. However, I don't think they ever clear enough by doing that.
Nah, they're dead.
Especially with Repentance. If they had gone Master's Call and they had gotten Spring Paw, double Hyena, if they didn't build a beast that turn, they would have lived. Oh no, True Silver was right around the corner. Never mind.
It was a bit of a rough go. Jamestown not ever hitting Vicious Scalehide as your secondary beast is really unlucky because you'll see a lot of games where the Deathstalker XR hits Vicious Scalehide every single time. They never found Cave Hydra. They never found Bloatbat. It was just not great. Not so great from them. But hey, with all the games that Deathstalker XR is winning, like, monstrously, every once in a while you have to see it kind of fizzle a little bit.
I do think that during that game, they build beasts pretty well. For instance, I was originally saying Vicious Fledgling. They took the Hungry Crab, which I think worked out 10 times better for them. If they hadn't taken that, they probably would have ended up dying. They realized that they needed a cheap taunt to play alongside the Unleash the Hounds that they were going to play that turn. So I think they built the beasts really well for what they were given.
They were building with the tools that they were given, but unfortunately those tools just weren't enough to beat the big board that their opponents were able to build. So we're all tied up here now. Oregon and Jamestown both with 1 win on the board. That's the Even Paladin gone for Oregon, and then that Wall Priest picked up a win in game number 1 for Jamestown. So a little bit of back and forth so far. We've got the Hunter and the Warlock left for Oregon. Jamestown with that Odd Paladin and the Mid-Range Hunter. Does Mid-Range Hunter ever really struggle looking at the remaining decks from Oregon? They have a Mirror and they have a Zoolock. Potentially, you could see the Mid-Range Hunter struggle a little bit against Zoo, and then obviously the Mirror is just a 50-50.
Yeah, you can see it struggle a little bit, but it's Mid-Range Hunter. Let's be honest. Let's not lie to ourselves. Mid-Range Hunter is just can beat anything. It doesn't even matter what the matchup is. It's just that powerful of a deck.
You're never feeling too bad about yourself when you get your Mid-Range Hunter through, but you got to give it to Oregon. They banned correctly here, and I do think that there is a world where maybe this Mid-Range Hunter flounders a little bit for Jamestown, but we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get into game number 3 and find out which of these teams is moving on to the Varsity Finals.
Intel Core i7 processor.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone Collegiate Championships Varsity Playoffs. We're currently tied 1-1 in our first semifinal match of the day, with University of Oregon taking on University of Jamestown. And we're going to be getting right into game number 3 here, seeing which of these teams can maybe pull ahead 2-1. We've got the Paladin and the Hunter remaining for Jamestown. And for Oregon, we've got the Warlock and the Hunter as well. Both mid-range Hunters, a Zoo Warlock for Oregon, and an Odd Paladin for Jamestown.
Yeah, it is a good old-fashioned aggressive mirror we got between these two teams. There's nothing I like seeing more than aggro on aggro. It's just like, it's my favorite matchup in the game because for as much, stuff that aggro gets, saying like it's easy to play and like it's, I guess even some people even calling it like brain dead, like I think aggressive mirrors are some of the most skill-intensive matchups this game, especially in Hearthstone.
A lot of people feel very strongly about aggro. I myself prefer not to play aggro, but you can't deny the decks are strong, and I think they're just going to be getting stronger going into the Rise of Shadows meta and the rotation that's happening tomorrow at 10 a.m.
happy.
Pacific.
I'm so tired of seeing slow control decks that are just so boring. I want to see Secret Paladin win games on turn 4 or 5. I want to see 2-mana 3/4s with Rush and Tempo Rogue. I just want to see aggro.
Jace dreams of a world where you can hit your opponent's face and win by turn 6.
Yes! Give me back Pirate Warrior. I want to play a War Axe.
You can still play War Axe. Nobody's stopping you.
I want to play a 2-mana War Axe.
You cannot do that.
What do you mean?
Unless you play Ebon Dragonsmith.
Unless I play Secret Paladin tomorrow. Then I can play a 2-mana War Axe again. Yeehaw!
Oh my. Last I checked, you were not from Texas. But I suppose I could check again.
Go check again.
Zoo Warlock versus Odd Paladin. Usually this one's going to go to the Odd Paladin because they just go so much wider and they're able to trade so much better than the Zoo Warlock is. But the addition of Despicable Dreadlord in the Zoo deck does have the potential to swing this matchup a little bit. And there are 2 copies for Oregon, so that certainly helps.
I think the most important thing for Jamestown here is to try and make sure they have some kind of answer for that Despicable Dreadlord. I think that is the most important thing. If they can get past that hurdle, they've won the game. Even off the start, I think I would have rather seen something like Righteous Protector, coin Firefly, or Righteous Protector, coin Lost in the Jungle. Because then you force the Kobold Librarian to go into the Righteous Protector, and if they have something like another 1-drop, or even Prince Keleseth, then you have another minion to trade into that minion afterwards, and then you can just like fit your hero power in, or you can just keep going in with 1-drops.
Aggro matchups, obviously, if you're playing a lot of 1-drops in your deck, you want to be the player going first. So if you have the coin, you need to find the right time to use it effectively, and I think for Jamestown that was as early as turn 1. They're going to go ahead and use it this turn, but regardless, trading over this Voidwalker is going to be a little bit annoying. And Oregon did just pick up Prince Keleseth.
Yeah, this is also one of those situations where not using the coin on turn 1 may have cost them the game this early. That's why I love aggro matchups. It's these little minute decisions like that. Because if they had used the coin and they'd gone something like Righteous Protector, coin Firefly, on the following turn they could have cleared up the Kobold Librarian, put Blessing of Might onto the Firefly, and taken a value trade over top of the Voidwalker, and then had a board. And then Oregon would have had to respond with 2 3/3s, which they then could have used the Firefly that was a 4/1 to trade over and play something like a Stonehill Defender. It's that turn 1 decision that influences this entire game.
Jamestown need to be in a position by turn 5 where they can kill a Despicable Dreadlord and then develop board again to be in control still. And right now it's not looking like that's going to be able to happen. Oregon are going to get to Dreadlord before Jamestown get to Fungalmancer, and then Jamestown are not going to have a board for the Fungalmancer on 5.
I think right now if you're Jamestown, you have to try and answer this board a little bit. I think they have to trade 3 1/1s in. Blessing him like the last one, trade it over the 3/3, and probably just hit hero power. They can best set up into Dreadlord by going like hero power double Firefly. That's the best way they set up into it. That way, hopefully, the Fireflies can live for the Fungalmancer. However, Oregon is having a pretty good curve themselves. There's something that Silverhand recruits hate to see. It's 1/3s. They're fine with 1-2s. Like, they're okay with 1-2s. It's 1-3s.
Hate that Dire Mole. Hate that Voidwalker.
Glowtron, hate it.
Oof.
Unless it's on their side, then they like it.
Like Oregon just playing out the hand, rolling into either the Fungalmancer or the Dreadlord next turn. Both look really strong. Tyrion's strong, but it's slow. The others are not particularly good.
No, they're not that great. And part of me wants to take Wax Elemental just so I can guarantee to have a minion on the board against a Dread Infernal, but that they might have to take Tyrion and hope they live to that point.
I think I'm favoring the Wax. Maybe you can hide
Seems
some
so
minions
bad.
behind it. I mean, it is bad.
The thing is, if
What's
Dreadlord
the
comes,
lesser of the evils here?
yeah, if Dreadlord comes down, Phantom Lich I think is not that bad either on turn 6. Thing is, if Dreadlord comes down, you do not have an answer for it. You lose the game. That is, it's as simple as that. They don't even need to Dreadlord yet. Like, this Fungal Master is just that much better. They just don't even need to Dreadlord. Yeah, this is looking like game over. I mean, what can they do?
Odd Paladin nowadays, without level up to be able to bail him out,
Reporting for
a lot more difficult to get back into the driver's seat when you've fallen behind this early.
Oh my gosh, and a Flame Imp to boot.
That's just about gonna do it. They're setting up for lethal next turn.
Dreadlord was lethal this turn. Dreadlord was lethal.
Psychological lethal.
And see, the craziest part about this is I think this game was decided on turn 1.
When they decided not to coin out an additional 1-drop.
As simple as that.
Just a little bit too slow.
That's why I love aggro matchups.
The good thing about them is they go fast, so you can, if you're looking to learn how to play a specific aggro matchup from one side or the other, you can lab them very fast and get a good sample size in where you learn how you actually want to play that matchup. Whereas if you're trying to learn a Control Warrior mirror, you know, you can play like 4 of them before you need to take a nap.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest parts about if you want to get better at Hearthstone is, I think that's kind of understated, is pick up an aggressive deck and learn it. Learn its ins and outs, learn its matchups, learn how it functions, learn what you can do to disrupt your opponent, learn what your opponent's reach is. Play the matchups over and over because you will get through them quicker and you will understand, like, then again, if like Jamestown goes back and watches that game, maybe they either mute us casting or they listen to us casting, whichever they prefer. And then they realize...
We can dream.
I know, right? Whatever, and then they look at it and they say, wait a minute, why didn't we coin out this 1-drop on 1? If we had done this, then it would have panned out to be a completely different game, and maybe they still would have lost, but it would have increased their chance of winning that game.
Well, that's something they want to go back and look at. But the Odd Paladin struggling regardless in a matchup that usually you would think it has a fair shot in. So the Zoo Warlock's off the table, and that just leaves the mid-range Hunter for University of Oregon, and they've got 2 chances with it now. We were looking from the Jamestown perspective with their mid-range Hunter saying, it's really unlikely that this deck loses twice in a row. Well, ball is in Oregon's court now because they've got 2 shots with one of the best decks in the game right now.
All right, they've got a pretty good opener from the start. I would throw back the tracking, throw back the kill command, keep Headhunters, and unleash the Hound. And all you're looking for is basically a Hyena. If you can hit Hyena, coin, unleash the Hounds, sometimes that's all it takes to end the game.
But at the same time, I don't think Jamestown are letting a turn 2 Hyena live. Especially since Jamestown
How are they
going
going to answer it, though? Well, I mean, you don't play the Hyena on turn 2.
Okay, you're talking
you
like
play
turn
it
5.
with the Unleash the Hounds on turn 4.
Gotcha.
None will survive.
The Jamestown better have a big board that doesn't die.
That doesn't die to
Unleash
Unleash
the
the
Hounds.
Hounds.
This is a fairly decent start from Jamestown, but for Oregon, I mean, they picked up the Razor Maw. If they could find a
Double
Dire Mole or an
Unleash.
Animal Companion, things would be looking so sweet.
Double Unleash is looking pretty good for them right now, especially with the Timberwolf. Allows them to clear up quite a bit. The greatest part about this Hunter deck right now is you can just play patiently. Like right now, this just really isn't enough. They can just Hero Power Pass. They're not that worried about it. Looks like they're going for more of aggressive play. This could come back to backfire if they get something like Huffer.
Oh, these are not Huffer gamers. Strictly Misha. They're not playing around.
See, I don't know if I like that Coin Animal Companion. Gets punished by Raid Leader, makes the board weaker for your Unleash the Hound later on. Also gets punished by something like Blessing of Might. And I think in most times, Jamestown would keep both of those cards.
Plus, you just wanted them to hold on to the coin for that big swing turn, assuming they can find Scavenging Hyena. But the fact that they haven't found it yet probably influenced that decision that they made. They're looking at Unleash the Hounds as just clean up when Jamestown gets a little bit too big on board.
I think with this matchup, you have to use the Unleash the Hounds with another card. I don't think... it's kind of like the theory with Even Lock, right? Even Lock is great against aggressive decks. The issue is if you're keeping Hellfire and Defile, and you're just constantly clearing stuff and you're not playing a big minion of your own, you're not going to win that matchup because they will produce more stuff than you can clear. So in this matchup, sure, you can have double Unleash the Hounds, you can clear board after board, but, I mean, they're just going to go ahead and hit the Hero Power button next turn, and you're going to have to do it again. And once both of your Unleash the Hounds are gone, you no longer have an answer. It's not like Warlock where maybe you have an extra 2 cards, or an extra 3 cards to answer the board. These are your only 2 cards that will answer this board, so you need to use them wisely. Like, for instance here, Hero Power Pass.
The clear turn also needs to be the swing turn. And we used to see it in early Hunter decks, which what mid-range Hunter used to be, essentially, was Knife Juggler plus Unleash the Hounds, because that was sort of your, I can clear up the board and maybe keep some of these Hounds, and maybe keep this Knife Juggler, and then try to spiral this a little bit out of my opponent's control. Nowadays, we've got the Hounds with the Timberwolf, Hounds with the Hyena, but it's a very similar objective.
Yeah, and even sometimes in this matchup, if you understand you're so far behind, you just go like Unleash the Hound's Timberwolf and send everything face. Just ignore their board. Yours are 2-1s, theirs are 1-1s. They're going to trade into yours. And when they do, I mean, you've pushed like, let's say there's 7 minions, and you go Timber Unleash. You push 12 damage in 1 turn. It's 4 mana, 12 damage. And then your opponent is going to have to trade, because if they don't, they will most likely die on the following turn. I've seen some Odd Paladin matchups with mid-range Hunter where they just have like double Timberwolf, double Unleash. They go Timberwolf Unleash, hit him in the face. They take a bunch of trades, make another board. Timberwolf Unleash, hit him in the face. That's 24 damage.
Terran pickup from Jamestown, though.
Oh, that's disgusting.
That's really good. You want to get your minions out of range of being killed by Unleash the Hounds? Well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to pull the trigger on the Unleash the Hounds. They have to play some kind of cleanup here. Especially going into turn 5. If it were still turn 4, I could see some merit for not cleaning up, but they have to play around cards like Fungal Mancer.
Frostwolf Warlord would be pretty punishing as well. Unfortunate that they have to double trade into the Stonehill because it means they lose the Timberwolf. But starting next turn, they have some more options. They're getting into the later turns of the game, then their cards synergize well with each other. If they can even just stick a Tundra Rhino by some miracle, curve gets a lot smoother.
Earth Shock. That is a pretty solid card against not only high main, but also potentially a big Hyena. Maybe a adapted minion as well. That is a great pickup off the Witch's Cauldron. Oh my gosh, Witch's Cauldron is going to be able to give the new Shaman spells.
Witch's Cauldron is going to be good. What are we getting with
That's
Shaman
disgusting.
spells?
I have them right here.
Witch's Brew.
Witch's Brew. Heck of the scheme is like not that bad. Soul of the Murlocs. Because if you're playing a Witch's Cauldron in your deck, it's most likely a deck that can go wide pretty quickly. So Soul of the Murlocs is pretty busted. And then Mutate. You just upgrade your Witch's Cauldron into a 4-drop.
I think Murloc Shaman's going to play Witch's Cauldron.
Probably not.
I'm trying to think of decks that are going to be going wide. Obviously, we're
Probably
losing
not.
Baku, so Odd Paladin isn't going to exist in the standard format tomorrow. So what would you actually play Witch's Cauldron in? I'm not sure. The deck that seems to go widest fastest is actually Murloc Shaman. But again, this is all with very little actual game knowledge of how these decks are going to operate tomorrow. Oregon just try to stick that Tundra Rhino.
Jamestown with a powerful Sunkeeper Tarim. Gonna keep getting Shaman spells as well. Earthen Might's pretty strong.
You can stick it on the Firefly and even get another Elemental. You can just use it as +2/+2 on the board with a Raid Leader and a Blessing of Might and try to kill Oregon.
Yeah.
It's looking like this series is going to come down to a mid-range Hunter Mirror.
Death by Cauldron. Yeah, this matchup's still pretty bad for Hunter. I think it gets much better if they're running like double candle shot. I think this matchup isn't as bad in like the specialist format. In Conquest, you're trying to make your mid-range Hunter just fairly decent against everything. Whereas in specialist, you can like make a mid-range Hunter that would be much stronger against Paladin. For instance, you can run like double candle shot, Galaka Crawlers just as 2/3s to put in the way. Double Unleash the Hounds that we see Oregon does have in their list.
A lot of fun possibilities we're going to see people trying out tomorrow. Then, of course, the World Championships are at the end of the month. We've got
Oh boy.
Hearthstone Collegiate Championship playoffs coming up around Easter. Lot to look forward to as far as tournaments right after this rotation happens tomorrow. But Oregon is stuck, still continuing to play cleanup. Really fortunate that they hit Poisonous off of the adaptation, but still, they're going to be behind because Jamestown just has this entire turn to develop and Oregon needs to be able to answer it consistently. But they've used both Hounds. They don't have Rexar, so their answers are running very low.
Yeah, they still have to find a way to be strong against something like Rexar. I think Rexar is like one of the few ways they lose this game.
That seems to always be the case.
That's Rexar.
You feel
in a
like you
nutshell.
can't lose? Ooh boy. Rexar will show you how you can't lose.
It's interesting they decided to go for this rather than Hero Power. This tells me that they want to try and play the Earthen Might next turn to get some more value out of the card.
I think that's okay.
Oh boy, here's another chance to just rip Poisonous.
You know what? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Earthen Might is going to hit Alakir, and then Jamestown on turn 9 are going to go Alakir, Blessing of Might. 12 damage.
Earthen Might's going to hit like Glacial Shard. It's not going to hit something that crazy.
It's just as likely to hit Alakir as it is to hit Glacial Shard. It could hit Menacing Nimbus, and that could hit Alakir. Or Kalamos.
It's
Then
just not
fireball
gonna
your
hit.
opponent's
It's
face.
just-
Ooh.
well, they would have had an Elemental.
Yeah, you go Menacing Nimbus, and then next turn you play the
Oh,
Kalamos.
you're talking about if menacing. Okay.
Yeah.
You're speaking crazy talk out here. First of all, this has to be Poisonous. Let's not forget that.
Speaking crazy
I feel
talk out here.
Poisonous is probably going to happen.
It's only a 33% chance, Jace. What are you talking
I
about?
think Poisonous is probably going to happen. Earthen Might, it's going to hit a Glacial Shard though.
Well, we'll see. I feel like you've made some very bold calls this season over the last 6 weeks, and a disproportionate amount of them have happened. Crap.
That was close. Glacial Shard is much more reminiscent of a Celestial Emissary than an Alakir is.
Celestial Emissary is
Glacial
not good.
Shard's a 2/1. Emissary's a 2/1. They're both blue. They're both elemental. Maybe I just am a prophet. I don't know.
I'd be careful thinking about yourself like that. Usually that's what happens before you buy a farm and then recruit people to come live at your farm where they don't wear shoes, and then eventually you get raided by the FBI. So I'd watch that.
Sounds like fun. I hate shoes.
I love the FBI.
The light dims, but we fight.
Both companions are gone, or both Unleash the Hounds are gone, excuse me, and the only thing that is able to bring Oregon back into this is Deathstalker Rexar. Stop waving to the webcams like the FBI is watching. Did you wave to all 3 of them?
Well, you waved to that one, so you got that one. Just figured I'd say hi to the FBI agent watching the Collegiate Hearthstone stream.
Sir or ma'am, you realize we're live on twitch.tv/play Hearthstone right now? There are easier ways to see the game. I understand I look like Beetlejuice. I'm not actually Beetlejuice. Please don't worry about that. It does not need to be an investigation. I just went to Target.
See, this is where having Unleash the Hounds would be so strong. I don't even agree with when they played Unleash the Hounds on that one turn to clear up the Witch's Cauldron.
Oh, the second turn then?
Yeah. The Hyena would get stopped by the Earth Shock we can see in hand, but if they had Hyena plus Unleash the Hounds here, that is how you win this game without having, like, a crazy opener. Is just Hyena, Unleash the Hounds, try and win through that. But they're going to look for Deathstalker XR.
Obviously, we can see even if Unleash the Hounds were there with the Hyena, Jamestown have an Earth Shock in hand, so that Hyena would never be able to connect to face.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to have enough time on this turn.
They don't hit Rexar, but they do dig a little bit closer. Oh, that feels bad.
Yeah, they didn't have enough time on that turn. Oh, that's a Divine Shield Maul. Dang it. It's just lethal.
Hey, it's not a Sacred Maul. And after 6 out of, I want to say 7 Sacred Mauls yesterday, Blessed Maul's looking pretty good.
We've seen quite a bit of Sacred Mauls.
A lot of Sacred Maul action. All right, Jamestown going to tie things up, and that means we're going to Game 5, and it's going to be a mid-range Hunter Mirror.
Oh, boy.
The winner of this series advances to the finals of the Varsity bracket, and of course, the winner of the finals of the Varsity bracket get an automatic invitation into the Masters Tour Las Vegas event, which is happening June 14th through 16th. So there's quite a bit riding on this for these teams. If they want to maybe try to transition into a semi-professional or professional Hearthstone career, Masters Tour Las Vegas is a way to do it. And I know as college students, they probably don't have as much time as, say, you or I to play Open Cups and try to grind for Las Vegas that way. So there's a lot riding on this game number 5. And I know you've played a lot of mid-range Hunter Mirrors. So what are you looking for?
You're looking for Dire Maul. You're looking for Razor Maul. You're looking for high mains at the later end. You're looking for Deathstalker XR sometimes. You're honestly just looking to out-tempo your opponent. Now, typically, a lot of the specialist tournaments, they have their decks situated to play against the mirror. And the way they do that is they play like double Wing Blast. They play like maybe 1 to 2 Baited Arrows. They probably play like 2 high mains. They cut like a Tundra Rhino. They make sure they have 2 flanking strikes. They only have like 1 Unleash the Hounds. There is a huge difference between the lists for Specialist and Conquest, so it's going to be interesting to see how this game pans out.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's going to be game number 5 between Oregon and Jamestown, and it's going to be a mid-range Hunter Mirror. Game number 5 of our first varsity bracket semifinal, and it's a mid-range hunter mirror. Jay, you were saying that part of the reason a lot of people are bringing mid-range hunter into Specialist Open Cups and why they've brought it in Conquest for the last few months is because it does have that blowout hand that it can get right at the start, that 1, 2, 3, 4 curve that just wins games.
Yeah, a lot of times what'll happen is whoever's on play, they get like Dire Maul, Crackling Razor Maw, sometimes even Headhunter's Hatchet in the mirror, or then they go into like Animal Companion, Flanking Strike. The curve is just absolutely absurd, and the one thing about this mirror match is it's going to come down to who can swing the board harder, I would say.
Okay.
That's typically why you see in like Specialist format, you see Wing Blast being included, because you have some crazy turns where you can go like Hyena, and then you do like Spring Paw into like a Crackling Razor Maw, and then Wing Blast like a Leok or something like that. So you can have some crazy swing turns, and it's going to come down to who can like stick one minion and make sure it stays there.
Well, it's all going to come down to this. This could be a very fast game, or it could be one that drags out a little and is decided by Deathstalker Rexar, but we are going to find out. Game number 5 here. Between Oregon and Jamestown, the winner advances to the finals. The loser, they're going on to the championship bracket, but they are out of contention for those spots at the Masters Tour in Las Vegas. Oregon are going to full mulligan.
All right, that's a Dire Maul. That's a start, especially on the play. For Jamestown here, it's a difficult decision. I think I would probably keep the Crackling Razor Maw and decide whether I was keeping the Hyena or not. I think the other two are probably a toss. Some players like keeping Rexar in the mirror. I don't necessarily blame them. I'm just not a huge fan of doing so. I think Rexar is kind of a big distraction in the mirror match because sometimes it's not intuitive to the initial game plan. And when I was saying blowout curve,
Talking about something that
I
looks
was
a little
talking
like
about
this.
something that looks like this. I think my exact words were Dire Maul, Razor Maul, Animal Companion, Flanking Strike.
Oh, 3 out of 4.
Like the
That's
worst
nothing.
part about this is like you want to contest this, but if you contest it, you could just lose the game to like a Headhunter's Hatchet. Tracking, probably take Flanking Strike. You need something to combat the board. Taking a second tracking is not really going to help Oregon or Jamestown.
That means that Jamestown isn't going to have a very strong turn 2. They didn't have a Dire Maul on turn 1 to contest. And Oregon are rocking Crackling Razor Maw here.
This is a tough decision. If you take Poisonous, it's better into something like Coin Animal Companion. If you take Death Rattle, it just gives you more minions on the board for later on. +3 health gives you like value trades. I think I would probably end up taking Poisonous.
Honestly, I don't mind any of these. I think Poisonous is the heads-up pick, but
This is a tough
Living
one.
Spores is also not terrible. Rocky Carapace, if you're expecting your Dire Maul to survive, maybe you hit Leok and you want to take some trades with it. Maybe you hit Dire Frenzy. Then it's better to have more health.
That was probably one of the toughest Razor Maws I've ever seen. Typically, you're deciding between two. Typically, it's like Death Rattle or like Poisonous, and you're like, oh, which one's better? What happens if they go coin this? What happens if they do this? Or like you only have one good option, and you're like, all right, I'll take this because it's the only one. Those three were all viable in that situation. Because +3 health helps in a situation like this where you want to go Animal Companion or Timberwolf in order to value trade. Because let's say you roll Leok, you get a value trade onto this Crackling Razor Maw. If you roll Misha, you kind of ignore the Razor Maw, go face. It's very different to what you think your opponent is going to have.
And it's almost impossible to get a read on what your opponent has because we're only going into turn 3 of the game. You haven't had enough time to figure that out.
There's a possibility Oregon could have had a read that they had Razor Maw because that was the only card they kept in the mulligan.
And they know it wasn't a 1-drop.
Exactly.
They're going for the Animal Companion. If they hit Huffer, you trade with the Razor Maw and you push face. If you hit Leok, you trade with the Mole and you push face.
I like the trade there. Probably have to take the trade. All right. It's probably got to be Animal Companion. As rough as that is. You go Animal Companion, hopefully you hit something like Huffer or Misha of your own.
You really hope you don't hit Leok.
Leok feels bad, but at least on the bright side, you could go Flanking Strike on the 4-2 the following turn. Keeping the Rexar may pay off for them in this matchup.
The mid game that Jamestown has is very good. They're going flanking strike, coin Deathstalker Rexar essentially. There's not any beast that Rexar can't build that can get you out of a sticky situation. Whereas Oregon's hand pays off at the high main, but up until then, it's actually looking kind of weak right now.
Yeah, this is where you would need something like a Master's Call to keep you in the game. They had a very good opener, but now is where they needed to keep that curve going. They either needed something like a flanking strike here that I was mentioning, or potentially a Master's Call. I think what they probably should do is go Timberwolf, Dire Maul, trade, hit him in the face, hero power. They need to start putting some kind of pressure on. Especially when you see your hand like this and you're like, all right, I've got another Timberwolf, I've got a high main. We need to make this work somehow. We need to kill our opponent and quickly. I think I like flanking strike, coin candle shot. They would have flanking striked on the previous turn if they had it, rather than make this awkward play. So you can get a read on them for not having flanking strike. There is some merit to Unleash the Hounds if you want to save the coin for Rexar. As you know, potentially the Unleash the Hounds won't get any better. But I like saving Unleash the Hounds sometimes. Especially when your opponent knows that it's gone, they can play accordingly.
There was a very greedy line that Jamestown could have taken there that heavily telegraphs Deathstalker Rexar, where they trade the... They could have traded the Hounds into the 1/6, and then next turn Candle Shot at the 1/3 played Rexar, set up for a Candle Shot into the other Dire Maul on the following turn, but possibly a little bit too greedy, too easily punished by Dire Frenzy, let's say.
This has just been draw for draw. Oregon responds with such a good draw. And then Jamestown's like, hold my beast real quick. Let me show you a draw.
Please no. Yeah, that Rhino off the top.
That Spring Paw off the top.
Just passing back and forth as they're bailing themselves out with the top decks, but Oregon does hit the Savannah High main on turn 6. The issue still being, though, their follow-up to this is terrible. They need Master's Call. They need tracking. They need Deathstalker Rexar. Because at this rate, Jamestown's going to have enough time to be able to clear this, and then they're going to have all the follow-up.
See, here's where a lot of players take, I'd say, differing lines. Some players would say, you know what? I'm going to play Rexar here. This Rexar just seems too strong. Other players would say, you know what, I can hold off for a little bit. Let me try and make a different play. I think with the combination of coin that they've held on to this long and the fact that they can clear up the high main, Rexar just looks too clean here. Oh my gosh.
Well,
whew, we're in for a doozy.
We were saying this could be a blowout, or we saying
what
it could
a
go the
game
distance and
5.
Be a beast building bonanza, and that's what we're getting here.
Honestly, I wouldn't have a game 5 any other way. All right, build a beast. I don't think you're going to get away with any other play this turn besides build a beast and potentially Tundra Rhino. All right, I like Tundra Rhino. Probably one of the premier beasts you can build at this stage of the game. Really hoping to hit stealth on the back end. A Life Drinker is tempting, but don't be fooled. Tundra Rhino, it's good.
They do already have one in hand, though. Opting for the Megasaur instead, with the Snow Flipper Penguin. Had they taken the Rhino, they could have played that with the Snow Flipper Penguin on this turn and just had a 3/6 instead of a 2/5.
I guess their goal with playing that minion was to have something on the board that can test any beast that Oregon built. The issue is they would have to hit something like a 1-drop or Snow Flipper Penguin in order to play it that turn. And there are sometimes where they just hit like 3 3s. And I guess in their mind they then just play the Tundra Rhino, hope it doesn't get answered, and they can charge that minion in. I still think I would have liked to see the Tundra Rhino. This is the first pick. It's probably got to be Nesting Rock.
4/7 on 5 mana is a really good stat line. Issue is it's expensive. You don't want to be picking those really expensive beasts until you're basically at 10 mana. They're close. They just want to be building something they can play every single turn, and thinking that Nesting Rock might be a little bit too expensive. They don't want to be locked out of developing this turn. So now it's up to Jamestown to answer. They've got some options. And if I'm them, I'm looking at trying to stick this Tundra Rhino. But they do also have the option of next turn going Tundra Rhino Dire Frenzy and guaranteeing that they shuffle buffed rhinos into the deck. And that might be too tempting to potentially miss. Which means they gotta find something else to do this turn other than just playing the Rhino.
Yeah, I think getting the Rhino down now is too strong, because your opponent most likely doesn't have an answer for it, especially with you full clearing the board. I think Dire Frenzying the Rhino, although it's very strong, is not necessarily the minion you want to Dire Frenzy. Oh, they just picked up an answer for it. Typically, I would say if you're going to Fatigue, Raptor Hatchling's really strong, but both these players have plenty of cards left in their deck.
We're going to be here for a while if they're going to Fatigue, and even still, Oregon have 18 cards in deck, Jamestown have 15. They don't need to be investing that far into the future, I don't think.
Yeah, so I think the take was Megasaur there. It just has the best stat line out of any of the minions. Unless they wanted to play something cheap with their combo right now. And if they play everything from their hand, it's going to cost them 5 mana. And they just built a beast on, I believe, 9. So
They have 7 mana to work with.
it would have to be a 2-mana beast, which the odds of that happening are very slim. So it would take something bigger, like the Megasaur. Looks like they opted for something cheap. It's just so sad that you have to kill off the Rhino when there's just a 6/4 that's going to eat up your hyena.
Don't have a choice, though.
Ooh. That's tempting.
They again now have the option to go Tundra Rhino Dire Frenzy.
I think it's too tempting not to do. Like, being able to draw rhinos that can charge in at any point, and any beast you build will charge, and your opponent has to answer them every turn, is too good to give up on. Yeah, it's too strong. I don't know if it was strong enough to hold on the following turn like we were talking about, but I think it's too strong not to do here.
Plus if the Rhino sticks, which you just saw how difficult it was for Oregon to kill a 2/5 Rhino. They're basically going to need to build a beast with Poisonous and Rush or Charge this turn to be able to kill this. And if they don't, then Jamestown can build something for 8 mana or less that's just charging right in.
So your goal is to kill this Rhino. If your goal is to kill this Rhino, you take Plated Beetle, because you can hit Skitterer. You can skirt and kill the Rhino.
Which tracks to follow?
Plated Beetle is just strictly better than Ravasaur Runt. They only have 8 mana to work with this turn, and the Skitterer's 5 mana.
And a Corpse Widow, although it's the biggest body, there is nothing you could build to immediately answer the minion.
They took the Corpse Widow, they could take Vicious Scalehide, but they're still 1 damage shy of being able to kill the Tundra Rhino, even with the Candle Shot equipped.
Looks like they just wanted to pick a massive Zombeast there.
Still not big enough to kill the Tundra Rhino. Not enough mana to play it alongside flanking strikes, so they're just going to need to keep this up.
It's a decent beast because it allows them to build death rattle minions and play them for cheaper. The issue is right now, whatever Jamestown builds will have charge. So probably just want to take something big, like Scale Worm. I think a Scale Worm's probably fine. They could take the Tundra Rhino, but they've already got one on board, and I don't think they necessarily need to take Tundra Rhinos now that they have them shuffled into the deck and they have one on board. I think more importantly right now, it's just take something big with Taunt.
Sure.
So I think
Try and
Scale
protect that
Worm's
Rhino
the
again.
start. Scale Worm Silverback. Sounds good to me. Not sure which one they took first, though. They might have actually taken the Tundra Rhino. If they took the Tundra Rhino first, I'm not opposed to seeing Jungle Panther play it on the board and just let it sit there.
They actually ended up taking the Tundra Rhino plus the Silverback Patriarch. Doesn't matter which of these Tundra Rhinos survives, as long as one of them does. However,
now this means it's just going to die to the Zombeast in hand.
Yeah, if they'd taken the Jungle Panther, they would have had to leave the Wolf on the board, but they could have then traded over the other Tundra Rhino and not worried about this Tundra Rhino surviving or not.
Yeah, see, I don't know about that.
This seems like a bit of an oversight to me.
Looks like Oregon maybe just be getting the better of them over the beasts they're building. All right, build it, build it. Woo. Probably King Mukla.
It's just the biggest beast that you have access to.
Unless they want value here, then it makes sense for them to go with Jeweled Macaw.
Subject 9. No secrets in the decks. That's just a 5-mana 4/4.
The reason I was suggesting King Mukla is because if they got Charge or Rush, they would be able to kill off this minion immediately. And the bananas are a little awkward, but I would say they're almost inconsequential.
So far, with how many beasts have been built, we are missing on a lot of the secondary, very powerful minions. Haven't seen Poisonous Bloatbat. We haven't seen Stone Tusk Boar. We haven't seen Cave Hydra. A lot of Tundra Rhino showing up so far, though.
I wonder.
Pretty good
Second
beast.
picks have looked pretty weak. Tundra Rhino plus Stoneskin Basilisk, it looks like, for Oregon. And a giant wasp with a crackling razor maw. That's pretty good. Oregon are not trying to be particularly aggressive here. With that trade, they're signifying that they want to just outvalue Jamestown on board, build better beasts than them, and eventually be able to swing for more damage than they need to win this game in a single turn or over 2 turns. Right now they're winning the board battle. They're just going to keep trying to do that.
Cave Hydra was a good start. Probably need to play the Cave Hydra. They took it with a 1-mana card, so it looks like they took the Lifesteal, which is pretty strong. Probably just want to play it out this turn. I don't want them to use the Hunter's Mark just yet, but they may actually need to.
There is also the option to hold on to the Cave Hydra and hope that you pick up one of your buff Tundra Rhinos off the top.
That's true. I just don't think you can afford to wait that long. I think if the Cave Hydra takes a trade with the 5/4, probably good enough. You just want this 5/4 to have to attack. And I don't think Subject 9 is going to force it to attack. I mean, then again, they don't know that this beast waiting around the corner is pretty strong itself. Probably Corpse Widow. Right now they have the boards, they just want to keep building big beast after big beast to keep the board.
There are a lot of very nice Death Rattle beasts that they could build if they could stick the Corpse Widow.
Probably want to take the Silverback Patriarch or the Dire Maul with it, just so they can build in the same turn. Oh, they went for Augmented Alec. Looks like their goal is to play it this turn.
Of course, there is the potential payoff of picking up Dire Frenzy when you have the Alec on the board. You get to shuffle twice as many minions into your deck. Wanting to keep that Razor Moss stealthed.
If they had picked up Tundra Rhino, that would have been a huge punish because of the placement. Because it would have essentially full cleared the board. Well, they would have actually full cleared the board with the Lynx in the hand as well.
Gotta keep that stealth minion in the middle, friends. No crushing walls here.
What was the first beast they took?
A couple of very good secondary beasts here. Vicious Scalehide and Vilebreed Skitterer are premium.
It's a pretty good beast right there.
That's a pretty good beast right there.
Stubborn Gastropod. I think they're going to hold on to the Stubborn Gastropod just to try and save it with the Tundra Rhinos they have in deck. It's basically like a free piece of removal. If they throw it out now, it just dies to the Headhunter's Hatchet, which I don't think they want to do. He has been real back and forth with building beasts.
I mean, that's how this matchup goes if you don't have a blowout start on either side, which it looked like we potentially had with Oregon, but Jamestown was able to deal with it well enough. Then it just comes down to Deathstalker Rexar, as so many other games against Hunter have for the last 2 years. So get your fill, friends, because come 10 a.m. Pacific tomorrow...
Yeah, tomorrow you will not see any of this.
Unless you're a big wild player.
You probably still won't see any of this.
Another Augmented Alec.
They really like their Alex.
They're just building big stuff.
It can come back to bite them, but typically it's just fine to build big stuff. They need to kill off this Dire Maul, though.
They are ahead on board right now, so every turn that they're just building something big and playing it, if Jamestown's also trying to build something big and play it, then Oregon should still maintain their lead.
Yeah, it all depends on what gets built, because if it's something big with Poisonous and Charge or Rush or Lifesteal, like if it's like Bittertide Hydra with Vicious Scalehide, it's just, sometimes it's just game over. And it's just going to be going back and forth and back and forth. It's like a weird game of Pong, where you're
Some
in a
would say
zoo.
ping pong, but Pong works too.
Well, the original game was called just Pong.
Well, the game was ping pong. The video game was Pong.
Yeah, I'm talking about the video game.
I'm going further back.
People can't go that far back. Half the viewers don't even know what Pong is.
I sent whose fate.
Well, you're probably not wrong. Half might be too high.
Oh, that's a good beast right there.
College students these days are still... Some of them were born in the 90s. Yeah, they know what Pong is. Poisonous Bloatbat with Stealth. It's going to take a turn to develop, and Jamestown are taking a bit of a beating right now, but there's their comeback mechanic. One beast to wipe the board. Tweet at Team Tespa if you know what Pong is. You want to prove Dr. J wrong.
I'm sure people know. I'm just saying that, there might be a couple viewers that don't know. Tweet at Team Tespa if you don't know what Pong is. Or if you Googled it, now you know.
It's just ping pong.
Digital ping pong. That's all it is. Thinking long and hard on this second pick. I think they took the Jeweled Macaw. Jeweled Macaw is cute with the, oh no, they took the Augmented Alec. They are really big fans of
love
Alec.
Augmented Alec.
Can't
With
blame
Echo and Rush. So Haunting Mastiff with the Alec.
The Jewel Macaw is really sweet with the Hunting Mastiff.
That's nice. You can play 3 of them in a turn. Well, Jamestown are gonna die.
Yeah, this is where I would have liked to see them potentially play the zombies on the previous turn. That has the Bloatbat zombies, because if they held on to it too long, you're going to be put in this situation right here where you need to answer this board and you just can't. So right now, their out is building... I don't even know. Building like Tundra Rhino with Snow Flipper. Playing it, putting the Stubborn Gastropod in, then hoping that they didn't find a lethal with the zombies they built and the Tundra Rhino on board. Very unlikely.
Or they're trying to find something for next turn, because this turn they can just play the Poisonous Bloatbat. And no, they're dead.
Yeah, they're just going to die if they do that.
Well, not technically. There's 10 on Oregon's side. Nah, any beast is playable. Yeah, they're dead. Right.
I'm trying to think of how
5 mana.
They would have to have like 3 5-mana options.
And then 3 4 mana or higher options.
And then 3 4 mana. The second option could do it.
Well, that's
first,
not
no.
going to happen.
Nope.
Oregon are going to take this. It ended up being a grueling Deathstalker Rexar battle, but Oregon had the better start, and they are going to have the better finish. They are moving on to the finals, and they're going to be playing against the winner of our second semifinal match, which is going to be coming up right after this. So congratulations to them. Jamestown, they are not out of the tournament. This is the goal that they had set for themselves. They wanted to advance onto the championship bracket, which they had. Again, we're playing through today just to find our varsity champion, who will be getting a direct invitation to the Masters Tour Las Vegas event. But all 4 of the teams that you're going to see today have already advanced onto the championship bracket. So Jamestown are not eliminated from the tournament. They just are eliminated from contention to receive that direct invitation to Las Vegas.
Yeah, right now all these players kind of set out what they achieved to do. All the 4 teams you're seeing compete today have set out, they've made themselves a name for themselves in the championship bracket. They're going to be playing later on, but right now it's kind of like a little bit of a bonus on the side for these varsity teams. I mean, obviously they want to make sure they get that that invite to the Masters Tour in Las Vegas, because that is a huge prize pool in and of itself. Obviously, that's not a team format. They will all need to compete individually, but it's nice to know that you're going there with your buddies, maybe enjoy a trip to Vegas as well, maybe plan it out. That sounds like fun.
You have somebody to room with. Maybe you can split the cost of the hotel. And somebody to prep with. It's really nice to just have friends there who are qualified for the tournament as well. And I mean, you're working on qualifying for Las Vegas. How many Open Cups have you played in so far?
21. Some of them I'll just like lose my first round. I'm like, that's not worth it. I'd rather just do something else.
What's the average length of an Open Cup? If you're making top 8, like how much time are you spending on an Open Cup?
9 to 10 hours.
That's a lot of time they're saving by just getting that direct qualification. So congratulations to Oregon. Jamestown, they're going to have to qualify for Las Vegas the old-fashioned way, but they have qualified for the championship bracket. So congratulations to them on their run so far in this tournament. But Oregon, we're going to be seeing them play again in our 3rd and final series of the day. And they're going to be finding out who their opponents are in our second semifinal of the day. But we have a chance now to interview our winners from the University of Oregon. We got to talk to them yesterday, and now we get to talk to them again as they are one step closer to those invites to the Masters Tour in Las Vegas. Congratulations, guys. You have qualified for the finals. You are one step closer to the Masters Tour in Las Vegas. Just talk to me about what's going through your head right now. Did you guys come into this series thinking that you were going to win it?
Yeah, so we ran the numbers last night, and we were slightly favored, but it was one of the most even matches we've ever calculated. Basically, every matchup was a 50-50. So yeah, we knew that it came down to skill and the cards. So.
Well, that's really tough to prepare for. If every matchup is looking like a 50-50, how do you plan your bans, and how do you plan which deck you're going to start with? Are you players who are very firm believers that pick order matters in Conquest, or do you just sort of roll the dice and pick whatever comes up?
I mean, it's one of those things where Hearthstone at the end of the day is an RNG game, so you just kind of choose something and hope that you get what you you just kind of choose and hope you RNG kind of well on matchups a lot of the times. And then, yeah, that's just kind of our mindset going into it, is hope we get lucky.
Well, hey, if you're coming into the day feeling lucky, there's nothing better than a Deathstalker Rexar off in game number 5. But talk to us a little bit about University of Oregon. I'm not super familiar with the school, but what's the esports program like? How's it been for you guys to attend there?
Yeah, so our esports program is up and running. It's not as far along as some of the schools, like you were talking about UCI last night. But we're getting there. We're getting a room. We're getting, obviously we have these great jerseys. We're starting to get a lot of stuff. So we're on the run with this program.
Awesome. Love to hear that it's growing and love to hear that you guys are such a pivotal part of it. Final question. You're moving on to the finals. Congratulations again. And you're going to be playing against the winner of our second semifinal, which is either Northeastern University or Miami University of Ohio. Now, obviously, I'm sure you guys have looked at their lineups from yesterday. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, so we would rather go against Northeastern. We think that, again, our lineup favors going against Clone Priest and Death Rattle Hunter, and that I believe they brought both of them, so that should be a good matchup, and we hope they win.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again, you guys. Obviously, you're advancing to the championship bracket, but you are still fighting for those spots at the Masters Tour in Las Vegas. So take a little break. We're going to be seeing you guys later in the finals, and good luck.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
They got to be careful if they want Northeastern, though, because Northeastern's been on fire.
Honestly, with both Northeastern and Miami University of Ohio,
They both have been playing pretty well, so it's going to be a great series either way.
Yeah, I think they're looking at very evenly matched teams, and at that point, it just comes down to who do we think your lineup is better against. But congratulations to University of Oregon, 3 guys with great perspective on the game, really talented players, and it seems like they're loving every second of having made it this far in the tournament. Like they said, the esports program at Oregon not quite as developed as something like University of California, Irvine, which is one of the most developed esports programs in the country, but they're getting there, and that means that these guys are a pivotal part of the development of the esports program, so it's phenomenal to see them succeeding. But that's it for our first semifinal of the day. We now need to find out who will be going up against Oregon in the finals. Will it be Northeastern or will it be Miami, Ohio? We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time for semifinal number 2.